It's trade deadline week in the NHL, which means we are talking trades, and more trades, I believe. That's what we agreed on. Yeah, lots of trade talk today. We got a lot to get to, so let's jump right into it. This is Garage Door Sports.
Mic check. 1, 2, 3. We good to go? Let's do this.
God, I love that music because it means one thing and one thing only. Garage Door Sports is back. Another week, another episode. Nick McVicker joined alongside by one of my best friends in the entire world and probably one of the best people to talk trades because he watches way too much sports. Kyle Vardy, welcome to the show, man. How's it going?
I mean, it's a fair statement. I do watch a lot of sports, but
You
it's
watch a lot
weird.
of sports. You bet a lot of sports.
Honestly, like this year for hockey, I haven't watched nearly as much, if I'm being quite honest. So
It's been a weird year, and I mean, we could talk about that a little bit before we get to the deadline because that kind of leads into why this is sort of an odd deadline. There's been a lot of overtime games in the NHL this year, and that has muddied up the standings, basically. Like, we're talking
totally.
too many teams in the East still think that they have a chance at the playoffs, and because of that, we don't have as many teams that are sellers, and yet there still seems to be a lot of players available if we're talking pure number of rumors we're hearing. So it's been a weird year. It's been a tough year to watch too because there hasn't been a ton of like great play. I mean, you could talk about the three big teams in the West in Colorado, Dallas, and Minnesota. They look fantastic. They're fun to watch. You have some fun teams playing in the East. Like I would actually say, and it hurts as a Leaf homer to say Montreal is a fun team to watch and Buffalo is a fun team to watch. And yet there's just a lot of middle ground in the East. I don't know. What's your opinion on that?
Honestly, it is a weird year. Like if you went into the year, a preview type of situation and said that the two bottom teams in the Atlantic were going to be Florida Panthers and the Toronto Maple Leafs, I don't think anybody would have believed you.
People might have questioned you just a little bit.
100%. And now the Leafs, I don't think were powerhouses, losing Marner and free agency and that kind of stuff. But like second last, basically tied for last, essentially. Not really in the cards. But yeah, you're right. I mean, there is a lot of exciting teams. I mean, the most exciting team I think right now is probably the Detroit Red Wings out of the Atlantic right there.
Yeah. Buffalo, though, right now, I would say, if we're talking right this minute,
sure,
it's got to be Buffalo. They're 25-5-2 in their last 32 games.
Yeah, they'll probably get swept in the first round of the playoffs. But that's a different.
If we're talking this moment, I mean.
Sure, 100%. Like to me, like Detroit, it's a team like that's why I focused on them. Was Detroit's a team that I think had the players, just didn't have the final piece, and I think bringing in Gibson in the offseason really turned around their team because they finally had that legit number one goalie. I mean, you look at Edmonton right now. If they would have brought in Gibson, Edmonton would be in a very different situation, and they'd be so much happier because they ended up making a trade, getting rid of Skinner and giving a second round pick.
Yeah, and we'll get into Edmonton later because I think there's more to that than just goaltending.
Sure.
And I think the goalies, Skinner before, Jari now, and Ingram are getting a lot of flack when it's not
future Bennington.
It's not just them, but yeah, like we'll get into that. Let's start with what's
the East is wide open.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say the East is wide open. To me, there's one team that I kind of identify as or two teams, I guess, that have always been there and always will be there, and that's Tampa and Carolina. Like to me, like those are the top two teams, and it's going to be one of those. You got to beat one of those if you want to truly make a run. So,
and it's
outside of that, it could be interesting matchups.
They will be really interesting matchups. But I find it interesting because I'm hearing talk that Carolina might go looking for a goalie, and it's like they're one of the top two teams that you just mentioned in the East, and they're going looking for a goalie. Like that's where we're at in the East. You know what I mean?
I feel like they never truly trust Freddie Anderson to stay healthy.
Yeah, that's
And
fair.
and do they want to go with Busey, or I don't know how to actually properly say his
UC,
name.
you got it.
Is it Busey? Okay.
Yep.
Like, do you want to go with him as your number one? Like, he's been unreal this year for you, but do you want him to be your number one going into the playoffs? That's the
Yeah,
question. Like,
it's a fair
because
question.
Freddie Anderson could go down next week and be out for 6 months. Like, that's just how his injury history is.
Yeah. Speaking of
So,
injuries, Chris Tanev, surgery today. Finally, we know he's not coming back this year.
yes,
Only,
core muscle surgery.
only took him what 3 months to make that decision. Like,
Yeah, I think his last outing they said was December 18th or December 28th or something like that.
yeah, like
So
just cut bait.
he
Anyways,
played 12 games.
let's get into the trade deadline. And there's been a few moves already made. I'm going to try to just read off some of the ones that have already happened, and then we'll talk about the two that are in place that haven't happened yet, because I think those are actually bigger moves, and
Correct.
one of them actually on our big board. But Connor Murphy traded from the Oilers, traded from the Blackhawks to the Oilers, so that should help defensively for the Oilers. Michael McCarron was picked up by the Wild for a second-round pick. Both of these were second-round picks, by the way. Sorry, let me get that out of the way. Last night, Cole Smith was traded from Nashville to Vegas for Christopher Seedorf, a defenseman, and a 2028 third-round pick. And then this morning, Tyler Myers plus future considerations are heading to Dallas, and Vancouver gets a second, a fourth, and they retained 50% of Myers' salary. So those are the completed trades. We are done, dusted. Any of those really jump out at you, Kyle, before we move on to some of the more rumored ones?
I mean, the big one for me, well, the one surprising one was Michael McCarron getting a second round pick. That was one thing.
Yep.
I did not think he's worth a second round pick being a straight up fourth liner. I mean, but then again, you look at last year with Scotty Lawton and the Leafs and that kind of trade, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, if McCarron's worth a second, what is Scott Lawton worth on this market? So that's a big question mark and potential for the Leafs as well,
for sure,
especially since they held him out tonight. The big one to me that I was kind of surprised of was Tyler Myers. Like, he's a bottom pairing defenseman at this point.
On a good team, yeah.
On a good team, like on Vancouver, he was probably playing top minutes. So it's like, I mean, that's saying something about Vancouver. But it's surprising that Vancouver got as much as they did. I like retaining $1.5 million on Myers for 1 year, or I think he's got one more year actually. It's $1.5 million, right? If you can get a second round pick for retaining Myers, you take that, right? So I mean, for Dallas, it's great. You get a bottom pairing guy at $1.5 million. He's huge. He kind of fits with that whole Dallas defense where they're basically minimum 6'3" essentially.
Got to be tall.
So yeah, so like it kind of fits that thing. So like I think it's a good move by Dallas. It's technically a slight overpay potentially, but I mean with retained money, it's kind of just you're guaranteed to get a better pick. So maybe it was going to be a third. They retained money and they got a second instead. Maybe that's kind of how it works in the retained money section.
Yeah.
Going back, I didn't realize that Connor Murphy was going to be a second round pick, but again, retaining $2.2 million of his contract again kind of bumps that up. Could have been a third or a fourth, but bumps up to a second. So not huge surprises, but it just kind of shows how expensive this D market is going to be at the trade deadline. So I would be very surprised, I would not be surprised if there are some defensemen who do not move at the deadline because the price is so high.
Yeah. And I was going to say,
ahead.
speaking of the high price, we might have a move already that kind of goes into that because Colton Parayko looks like he's on the move from the Blues heading to Buffalo, and the return is Radim Mirtka, I think he's a defenseman, correct?
Yes.
Big boy. And a first-round pick is heading back to St. Louis. So that's a big deal. I think he also has a few years left on his contract. So
yeah, he's signed until 2030.
A first-round pick and a prospect who a lot of people are saying is going to be pretty good. He's a big boy.
Yeah.
So
he was the 9th pick in 2025 draft, right? So Like he's a fresh prospect, you could say,
Yeah.
where he's still got tons of room to grow. For St. Louis, you take this 100%. Like, yeah, I don't know if they were necessarily expecting essentially 2 first-round picks, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
For Parayko, like Parayko, I think really showed, especially in the Four Nations and this past Olympics too, that he can be that shutdown guy. He can be one of those better defensemen in the NHL. And again, another big guy, can throw the body if he needs to.
Big boy.
And I think that's kind of what fits in Buffalo's system, because a lot of their defensemen are smaller, more puck moving guys outside of Owen Power. Right.
Well, actually, I'm pretty sure right now all of their guys are like 6'2" or 6'3" and taller, except for Byram.
Well, like to me, I'm looking at Darlene and Byram, who are not physical guys, smaller stature style guys,
Yeah.
that aren't going to be go in the corner and blow you up.
Fair.
Right? That type of situation. So like to me, that's where I think Parayko fits in.
Yeah.
Great defensive system. You want to pair him with Byram, let Byram go a little bit more. That could be a great second pairing when you got whoever plays with Darlene. But
So I have the potential D pairs here in front of me. Samuelson and Darlene, Byram, Parayko, Power, Kesselring. I've also seen Byram and Power switched. So they had Byram and Parayko and Power together, and Byram and Kesselring. Either way, like that's a pretty solid decor
100%
for the next few years.
And Buffalo didn't need offense.
No.
Like they have the goal scoring. So like their one weakness, if you wanted to look at one, was their decor.
Yeah.
And just getting more depth and getting, a quality piece in there. So, if you're Buffalo, you've done this for years where you've drafted the prospects, you've had the picks. Like eventually you have to go all in and try and go. And apparently they were working on a deal too for Robert Thomas, couldn't come to an agreement. And that's when they kind of shifted to Parayko. So curious to see if they revisit that potentially towards the deadline and see if they want to do both or get both involved.
Yeah.
Because that would be a very interesting situation, bringing Robert Thomas in there. But I think it's a great move if it goes through.
And that's the thing. This is still waiting player approval, which is fine. Yeah. He has a no-move clause. Yeah. And he has – before we get into the no-move, no-trade, all that crap, if a player has gotten a no-trade clause, and yes, I know they were thrown out like candy a while ago, they have earned that for the most part. Like, you have to be in the league long enough to get a no-trade clause, and these guys have families. These guys have lives outside of hockey that they also have to consider. Parayko has kids. Like, if he makes the decision that I don't want to go to Buffalo, I don't want to take my family to Buffalo, that is his prerogative. We cannot vilify players for doing that. They are making a decision that they think is best for their families. Will he? Probably not. He's probably going to go through with the trade, especially because it's been announced, and I think this one will go through. But please don't vilify players for saying no if they have the no trade clause. It's their prerogative. They can't. They earned it to a degree, and I just hate that we get on players because there's so much more to the decision than, oh, I don't want to play in that city, right? Like, let's be honest here. It's not just that sometimes.
Yeah, I think to a certain extent. I mean, Buffalo hasn't exactly had the greatest, history of being known as a city that everybody wants to go to.
No.
You think of the early 2000s, they were really good then, and then they had about 14 years of being trash.
19.
So, yeah, close enough. So, like, to me, like, it's one of those, if I'm Parayko, one, he's Canadian, so potentially being closer to Canada might play a factor there. Might be more what he's looking for, right? He's a 30-minute drive from the border.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of reasons to go to Buffalo.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that there isn't. I'm just saying if he decides not to, can we not vilify these guys? It bothers me.
Like yes, as a fan, I think the fans have every right to complain, to be honest. Like, you look at the Leafs, you go back to Sundin.
Yep.
Didn't waive his no trade clause, ended up screwing over the Leafs a little bit there. He's still regarded as one of the best players, but still people do not like him because of that, the way it ended. So there's that, right? Can we really vilify them for like, hey, I just really don't want to go to Buffalo. It's not the best thing for my family. No, you can say that. Sundin was like, well, no, I don't want to leave the Leafs. Like that was the reason why. So like compared to like two different options. If it's one like it's a family situation, you want to do it that way, and that's how you explain it.
Yeah,
100%. There's no reason to vilify him. If it's like, well, no, I really want to stay in St. Louis, it's like, no, you don't. You just don't want to go to Buffalo, and you're using St. Louis as the rationale behind it. Like,
yeah, and that's more. I think that's more what I'm talking about. You're allowed to
situation.
be. You're allowed to be disappointed or frustrated as a fan. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying don't vilify the player. Like, be frustrated. There's nothing wrong with being frustrated. But these are human beings. Like, they're making a decision what they think is best for them, for their family. It's not just about your hockey team, is more what I'm trying to get at.
Totally.
That's what I'm trying to say. But I agree with you. Going back to what you were saying about the trade itself, I think it's a good fit. I actually think it's a good fit for Parayko. I think it's a good fit for the Sabres. Like, all of it makes sense to me from a hockey standpoint. And giving up what is essentially 2 first-round picks, as you said, because you got the former first-round pick and the upcoming first-round pick from the Sabres. It might be a lot, but this was a guy who was just playing in the Olympics. Like, he's not, if I'm using the Leafs as an example, he's not OEL, right? Who's a good defenseman, but I would take Parayko 9 times out of 10 unless I'm looking for someone to be left-handed shot. Like, unless I really needed the left-hander.
Like, right-handed shots are always going to be more expensive.
Yeah.
Right? So, it's a dying breed in the NHL. And as I said before, a guy of his size who can skate pretty well
and move the puck,
like he can move the puck. Hard to find in the NHL.
Yeah.
For sure.
So all of it for me makes a ton of sense for Buffalo. All of it for me makes a ton of sense for Parayko because he's now going from St. Louis, who is a tire fire of an organization right now, to Buffalo, who historically has been a tire fire, but right now look like they're making the right steps towards being relevant again and for the foreseeable future with all the guys that they have locked up over in contract. It looks like a good spot. So I'm excited to see if he does accept how this actually looks on the ice. It should be a lot of fun. The other trade that may or may not happen, Utah Mammoth reportedly have a deal in place with Calgary to obtain Mackenzie Weegar. Now, this one doesn't have as many trade details. We know what's going back to St. Louis in that Parayko trade. We really don't know what's going to Calgary. The one thing we do know 100% is it is not Tidge Aginla, despite Calgary fans' hopes and prayers that they can get the guy back. He will not be going to the Flames, but I like this trade a lot for Utah as well. Kind of similar to the Parayko move. This is a veteran guy, smart defensive player, can move the puck, can skate. And he adds that veteran presence to a Utah D-core who is young, and for the most part, I'm pretty sure. Yep. And just brings that element that they don't have. So I love this deal for Utah. I think it's a great fit for Weegar. Again, pending player approval, lots to still be figured out. But I like it a lot. What about you, Kyle?
Yeah, honestly, I think it comes down to return. I think is really what it comes down to. The one piece that apparently is going back to Calgary is Oli Mata, is what they've announced.
Oh, lovely. But Mata getting moved again.
Yeah, they haven't announced any picks or anything like that. Or prospects. So I'm curious to see what it is. But this is now, I guess you could say, the third big swing that Utah has made.
Yep.
Right in the last 4 years. Right, you get Sergachev, you get Peterka in the offseason.
Yep.
And then now a Weegar. So it means Utah is believing in this core. I think they finally realized that Vejmelka is their goalie of the future and goalie of now. So I think they kind of have pushed all their cards in and said, let's go for it. So I like this, unless it's a crazy overpay with picks and prospects that we don't know about at this point.
Yeah.
I like this trade. I'm very curious to see what Calgary gets in return.
Yeah.
I mean, Calgary's been terrible, but Weegar's also he's minus 35 this year.
Yeah.
So
but he's also playing a lot of minutes too on a bad team. So you got to kind of find that balance.
Yeah. At a certain point, there's also, if you're a good enough player, you won't.
No, I'm not arguing. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
But plus minus is also one of those worst stats ever. Like nobody really likes looking at it, but like at a certain
It's
point,
a side stat. Let's be honest. Like it's
yeah,
useful every once in a while to help prove a point, but it can't
yeah.
be the point itself.
When you start approaching -50 with 20 games to go,
Yeah.
that's when you start looking at it like, okay, what are we looking at here?
Yeah. Fair.
So I'm very curious, one, to see where he plays. I'm assuming it obviously being the top two
Yeah.
pairs.
So here's
But
the pairs right now as they sit for Utah. They have Sergachev, Sean Dursey on the top pair. Nate Schmidt and John Marino is your second pair. And Ian Cole and Oli Mata is your third pair. So not as young as I thought they were.
so
Like
probably Schmidt would drop down to the third pair, replace Mata, and then Uyghur probably fits in that second pairing.
yeah, with John Marino. That would be my guess.
I would think so, probably.
Which
So
is
I mean,
interesting because that third pair is now
it's
old.
it's a solid two pair. I'll say
Yeah.
that, right? So that third pairing, I think maybe I could see them potentially going out and getting another, vet guy to, hey, we'll give up a fourth or a fifth type of situation.
Yeah.
That Justin and I were talking today. That Luke Shen style deal.
Yes,
right?
great.
He's
pull.
traded at every deadline, but he's like that sixth defenseman that every
on
team
every
wants.
deadline.
100%. And like, you go back to like, I keep referring to the Leafs, like Roly Poly Oly, like that type of defenseman where it's like, you're going to make it well worth your time to bring him in and he's going to put somebody down.
Yeah.
And that's the type of defense we want as your sixth guy, right? Or even sixth, seventh, whatever you want to do. So going back to this, I think Uyghur is a great fit. We'll see what the actual return is, barring this actually going through, which I don't see an issue with it.
Yeah, I don't either.
Unless he really doesn't want to go Utah. But to me, Utah is one of the, again, very similar to Buffalo in the West.
Yeah.
It's one of those up and coming teams. They got all the pieces.
They got an owner who wants to be there.
100%. And like maybe they need one more big swing to try and put it over the edge, but I think they're well on their way to getting there. So
yep. Yeah, I agree. And there's a lot to get into. And you know what? This is probably a good time to pull our big board up that we made. So we might have already lost one of them. Mackenzie Weegar, as we mentioned, might be on his way to Utah. But some of the names we were looking at, Nazem Kadri up at the top of that list. We'll get into the Flames in a bit. Trocheck, Robert Thomas, Elias Pettersson, Justin Falk, OEL, Dougie Hamilton, Weegar, as we mentioned, Evander Kane, and Bobby McMahon. Those were our top 10. We could have made a list of 50 and still left people off. It just seems like there's so many guys that might move. And I don't really know what to make of that, Kyle, because, let's talk. We'll go straight into the Leafs, right? There's a lot of players that could move on the Leafs, but I don't really know what they should do right now. Like, what do they need to do ahead of the deadline? Because they are a fish out of water right now. They look lost. They look disengaged. They do not look like the team we've seen over the last 9-10 years in Toronto. It looks like 2014 when they had to completely tear it down. So the question is, A, does MLSE have the stomach to go through a rebuild and tear it down to the studs, which is what fans are asking? Or B, is there a way to mitigate how far down you have to go and make this a quick retool like we've seen the Bruins do in the last couple of years and Washington did a couple of years ago, right? That, I think, is the big question. So what do you think they need to do heading into the deadline?
I mean, to be honest, I do think they need to blow it up, but I don't think they will. I think it's going to be a lot of expiring contracts or peak value players that get traded. And that's why we were putting the list together. That's why I wanted OEL on there, because as much as I think people want him to continue because he's been great for the Leafs, he's never going to have a higher value. So if you're the Leafs, you got to capitalize it, especially if Tyler Myers is getting a second round pick. OEL is going to fit better into a top 4 pairing for a playoff team. So if he's getting a second round pick and money retained, if you're going to retain money on OEL, you're getting a first round pick. Yeah. So to me, and with the Leafs not having first round picks in a millennium, basically
forever,
they need to grab those picks and they need to do what I think will happen is the Boston retool, right? If they can retain their pick this year, right? If it's top 5, they retain their pick this year. They don't have to trade it to Boston.
Yeah.
If they get that, plus they get some other picks for some of these people at deadline, I think it could be a quick retool, right? I think there's also a chance that if they keep that top 5 pick, there's a very real chance that if it's not like a top guy on the board, you can trade that pick for somebody else and go and get a stud guy who maybe on a developing team, they want a top 5 pick and do it that way. I think that's what they might do. So to answer your question, what they're going to do at the deadline, they're going to trade all the expiring contracts. Lawton's going to be gone. OEL is going to be gone. McMahon will be gone. I mean, OEL is not an expiring contract, but he will be gone.
But I knew what you meant.
I think one of the goalies will be gone, most likely Stolarz. Right. Joseph Wool's Joseph Wool signed, but then
so is Stolarz.
Hildeby's on a one-way contract next year.
Yes.
So one of those guys will likely be gone, and I think that's probably why they're playing Stolarz so often right now. Is I think they're trying to build his value back a little bit.
Dangerous move though, because if he gets hurt, you're screwed.
Sure, but his value was in the toilet for.
I don't know if the last few games have helped.
Yeah, he hasn't been the issue, to be honest.
He has not.
That Ottawa game was the team around him more than anything else.
Yeah,
but I think that's what they're going to do. And going back to the trade board, it's kind of ironic that 8 out of the 10 players on that list are from 4 teams.
Yeah, so, it is. It's also a little disappointing that that's the case. But as we put it back up for you guys, and I guess we'll take down that lower third. We don't need that anymore. You got 2 Blues, 2 Canucks, 2 Leafs, and 2 Flames.
Yeah.
And then you just, throw in Vincent Trocheck and Dougie Hamilton just for fun.
3 Canadian teams, ironically, too.
It's ugly.
But yeah, I think that's what the Leafs are going to do. You look at the other teams. I think St. Louis has a full fire sale. If we want to kick Uyghur off of that list, you can then replace him with Jordan Kyrou, because I think he's going to be added to that list too.
Blake Coleman, right? Also another guy who
Coleman
could be going
as well, for sure. Right, and then you look at some of the other outside names too, right? You got potentially Stamkos potentially on the move as well. I don't know if he actually does get moved, to be honest. But then you look at his teammate, Ryan O'Reilly, like he's likely going to get moved.
Yep.
Thank God he, survived that potential eye injury last night, which would have absolutely destroyed Nashville from trading him. But I mean, obviously health comes first. So
yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it's gonna be one of the more entertaining deadlines, I believe, because as you said, there's a lot of players available. Because the previous deadlines in the last 2 or 3 years have just been quiet, or the moves have been
bit moves,
mediocre moves. Yeah, like it's either been swing for the fences or a 7th defenseman for a 4th round pick.
Yeah,
like there hasn't been like a consistent trade.
That's fair.
Out of anything, right? Like you had the Rantanen thing last year. That was the big one, and then outside of that, you didn't have much.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right?
That's fair.
So to me, I think it's going to be a lot more action-packed and more, maybe not as many high-end moves with like top pairing guys or top 6 forwards, but you're going to have a lot of those middle 6 guys, top 4 defensemen. I think those are going to be a lot available as well. And then I'd be very curious as to what goalies move, because I think Montreal could potentially use a goalie. Vegas could use a goalie.
So we'll get into those a little bit more. I want to get back to the Leafs, and I'm going to give my opinion on this. I'm curious what you have to think about what I have to say here, Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
There are, in my opinion, 3 untouchable players on the Leafs right now. Everyone else, and even those untouchables are like mostly untouchable. If you get the right trade and something completely blows it out of the water, I would understand making a move for them too. But the 3 untouchables are Matthews, Nylander, and Nyes right now.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else has to be on the table, because what they've been doing for the last 2 years is really not working. Changing the style, going big, getting heavy, going north-south hockey, it's just not working. I also think it comes down to who is going to be running this team moving forward. Is it going to be Tree? Is Berube going to be behind the bench? Are they going to bring somebody else in? Are both of those guys gone? I think there's a lot more questions where it comes to who's running the team than it does who's on the team at this moment.
Yep.
Because that will change who needs to be on the team in the future. If they decide, we want to continue down this road where we're playing north-south hockey, big body, play physical, I'm sorry, Nylander and Matthews have to go. Because neither of those guys play that style. And neither of those guys can adapt to it. At this rate, we haven't seen it. It does not look like either of them can. So if that's the case, and Morgan Riley is another one, he would need to go as well. That is just not their style. And that's fine. Not every player can play every style. It's just how it is. Literally, I think the only player in the NHL that I would say who could play every style of hockey right now is McDavid. Because we've seen him play heavy. He plays strong. He can play that north-south. He can play east-west. He does not care. Put him on the ice, he'll figure it out. McKinnon's my favorite player in the league. I wouldn't even say McKinnon can play all styles because he's not really a physical guy. He's not going to he'll hit, but he's not the guy who's going to go run a guy in the corner on a rush to get the puck back. That's just not how he plays. And it's not how Matthews plays. And I don't want him to play that way. And if you are a Leafs fan, you shouldn't want him to play that way because that's not where you're going to get the best out of him. You're going to get the best out of him when he has the puck on his stick with players who are smart enough to move east, west, north, south, wherever direction they need to be to find space for him to find them and then get the puck back to him. That is where he's going to have his most success. Right now, he's playing a style that does not fit his game, and it's costing him. He's on a 36-goal pace for the season. This is a former 60-goal scorer who should have been a lock to score 50 almost every year with the way he shoots the puck and his goal-scoring ability. And he's on pace for 36, and he might not get that because it's on pace for with 20 games left. And he started off the season really hot and then disappeared for a while. So, no, it's not working. So, does that mean that you got to get rid of Berube? Maybe. If you want Matthews to be the guy, you have to find a coach who can coach that style. Right? In my opinion.
Yeah.
And Nylander's in the same boat. They play a very similar style. Nylander's a little less physical, a little bit more flashy with the hands, but they play a similar style. They can play east, west, north, south. They can't just be going north, south. That's the problem.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a full rescale in the offseason. I think that's the real one.
Right? And again, I don't think those trades are realistic. If you agree that you want to play the north-south style only and straight line hockey, okay, well, you have to look at trading those guys. That's not an in-season trade. I'm not realistic. This is not happening by Friday.
Not a chance.
But the Leafs need to decide what they want to do, because if that's what they want to do, they got to tear it down and rebuild and find somebody who can play that style, because it's not working.
100%.
Vice versa.
I think that's what they have to do at the deadline. I think they have to look at like players like Domi and that type of a player where it's, does this fit what you envision the future as?
Yeah.
If not, then that is a deadline trade.
Yeah. Or an off-season trade. It could be an off-season trade, but you have to start making that decision now, right? Like
Correct.
Domi, Robertson, Lorentz, Waugh, Joshua. None of those guys are safe. Even Easton Cowan, to me, isn't 100% safe. You're probably keeping him because he's your only forward prospect outside of Quinlan. Quillen, right? Like, you probably keep him. But if someone comes and says, hey, we really want Easton Cowan, here's what our offer is, and it's fantastic, he's on the table. I'm sorry. You can't have him. You can't be holding him back. The only three that I would say are mostly untouchable are the three that I mentioned. And
the only reason I would disagree with Cowan is just because of his contract and that they have to keep cheap contracts on the books.
Yeah.
So unless you get blown away with an offer, which will not happen.
That's what I'm saying. It has to be.
He hasn't shown enough for somebody to be like, hey, I'll give you 2 firsts.
Yeah,
like,
it has to be a blow-away offer.
Yeah,
I'm not
like
saying
a first round pick
a
doesn't get it
second
done.
or a first. Like, it has to be a blow-away.
No, like a first round pick doesn't get it done.
No.
Like that's just not a thing,
I
right?
agree.
And you got to think that Cowan has enough physicality that he can be one of those guys that plays both ways, but he has to play. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So, and it's the same thing as the Leafs prospects always happen. They never truly get game time. They never can truly develop. They stick them on the third or fourth line or in the minors, and then all of a sudden we're talking 3 or 4 years down the road. Oh, what happened to this guy?
Yeah. I agree.
Well, he never truly got a shot, right? Like there's certain players, and like I'm not saying Cowan's a superstar, but like
No.
there's certain players that have to play with top guys to bring out the best in them.
Well, at this point, he just has to play. He's been scratched.
Yeah. Which I think is a Berube issue, and I think there's a very real chance he's gone in the offseason too.
I agree.
I think there's a very real chance that Tree Living's gone as well. I think there's a very real chance that they just go full scale, nuke it. Let's just start over fresh.
I would agree. And I think that's kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
But you have to decide what style you want to play.
Totally.
And then instead of just bringing players in, bring players who play that style. Because at this point, you're just bringing random players in to try to fit, and it's not working. So that's my 2 cents on the Leafs. It'll be interesting to see where their goaltending goes. And I want to say that they'll figure it out, but I also have zero faith in the Leafs. So we'll move on. And from the Leafs, we head out west. Welcome back, Kyle. I saw you froze there.
I was going to say I was gone. I didn't hear anything for a minute and a half.
It's okay. I was just wrapping up the Leaf conversation because let's head to Calgary. The other truly bottom team in Canada, because I don't really put the Winnipeg Jets there. They're having a really bad year, but I think they're better than they are.
Well, Vancouver's the worst team in Canada. It's not close.
Vancouver's the worst team in Canada, and we'll get there as well. But
Yep.
one of the other bad teams in Canada, I guess,
Mhm.
because there's enough
Yep.
of them. Is this the year that we finally see Calgary trade off big pieces?
I think they have to. I mean, they already started with Rasmus Anderson going to Vegas, right? So like
Yep.
that was their big first move. This Uyghur one, right? There's not a whole lot of pieces left, to be honest. Like you look at Kadri's the next big piece. You know, maybe you move up Backlund. Maybe like it's one of those type of pieces.
Yeah.
But like outside of that, I don't know what else they
Coleman.
got. Yeah, like Coleman, but like even then, that's more like a secondary piece. I think the major pieces were Kadri, Rasmus Anderson, and Uyghur. And
Yeah. That's fair.
you're looking at those three all but being gone basically.
Yeah.
So as long as they get a good return for Uyghur and they get a decent return for Kadri, who I think is a very real chance going to Colorado. So it's going to be a matter of what they get for him. I think it's going to be where do we go from here? You have your goalie of the future. I mean, he hasn't looked great this year, but it's been a terrible team in front of him.
So I was going to say,
So-
which one is their goalie of the future?
It's Wolf, not even close. Not close.
Okay. So is there a chance that Cooley could get moved?
Yeah, I could see it.
'Cause
There's
I don't think either goalie's played crazy poorly in Calgary. I just think that team is bad.
Yeah, and I think that's probably part of it too, right? Like you look at Wolf kind of carried them essentially last year.
Yeah.
And then this year he kind of was just like, yeah, I can't do it again. 2
Well,
years
I
in a
mean,
row.
he's
Like,
also won them a ton of their wins, like
100%.
single-handedly.
Yeah.
So
and that's why I think they have their goalie of future. So I think he is good. But they need some serious pieces coming back. So like the Uyghur one, I don't know who Utah's top prospects are, but like you gotta assume you can get one. I know Tej is one of them, obviously, but like you gotta hope you can get something big back. So
yeah, at least they have multiple prospects, unlike the Leafs.
I mean, the best prospect for Utah is better than any prospect on the Leafs. So there's that, right? So,
Yeah. But I mean, they just have options. Like it's not just one. It's not like if you're trading with the Leafs, you're getting Cowan or Danford. Good luck. What position do you want?
Yeah.
All right.
Exactly.
Utah
Florida
has
defense,
options to move. They don't have to trade Iginla just because that's their only guy. They can trade a few pieces and make it work.
I'd be very surprised if Desnoyers in that deal, to be honest.
Agreed.
I could see it being like a Simashev, like that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Where it's
I can see it.
their top defensive prospect. But I mean, maybe that's what Calgary wants. Maybe they want to build the back end, get some defensive prospects in there. But I'd be very curious what they get for Kadri too, because I think
Yeah.
he's arguably the top forward on the market, you'd think. Like for
Robert
for what
Thomas.
he brings. Yeah, I mean Thomas. Yeah, Thomas is younger. He's got a little bit more term. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'll give you that one for sure. But like outside of that, I would say Kadri's pretty much up there for like
Yeah.
the best possible guy you can.
Yeah, you're looking at guys like
because Kadri's way better than Trocheck.
yeah, I was gonna say you're looking at guys like Trocheck, who's a special teams guy. You're looking at maybe Elias Pettersson, right? Who, the way they're playing right now, I'd take Kadri over Pettersson. But age and other things.
Pettersson also has the whole effort situation that like he's been called out multiple times. And he's making what, $12 million?
11.5, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so like that's not a contract everybody can take on.
No,
so.
especially mid-season.
Correct.
I actually think that ends up being a off-season trade. I don't think that happens. It's on the big board because he's a big name and there is talk and potential, but
yeah,
I don't think it happens. I agree. I think Kadri is the big piece outside of Robert Thomas from a forward perspective.
If Pettersson does get moved, watch for Carolina.
Yes. Yeah. But we also have to be aware this is the first year that there's going to be a cap in the playoffs, right? So teams have to be cognizant of that. And if players are coming back from injury, you might have to sit guys in the playoffs, which is going to be a weird realization, right? Like it's something that we've never had to deal with before, and now it's going to be something that you have to deal with. So that could also play a factor into it maybe being a quieter trade deadline. I hope not. I hope there's moves. I want to talk about them, but it could be a quieter deadline just because of that. But yeah,
either that or you get people ruled out for the year very early in this season to make sure the cap space is there.
So, yeah, but they can't. They won't all be.
No, but I'm saying I'm ruled out for the season. What I'm saying, like guys are like, oh well, he might be back for playoffs. Nope, done. Like ruled out right away. Like you're going to see a couple more of those, I think, just to make sure the money is available.
Yeah, potentially. We'll see. I mean, I'm just throwing that out there as a potential thing for people to be cognizant of. And back to the Flames, you're right. They're starting to move the big pieces finally, and they don't have a ton. So they really have to capitalize and make sure that they get top dollar for each of these guys. That's a big ask for Conroy, who is still a new GM in the grand scheme of things. I'm interested to see what they get for Weegar. I'm interested to see what they get in a potential Kadri trade. And maybe if they do look to move Cooley to a team that wants a backup or a young potential starter who they don't really have their starter in place, it could be interesting. The other thing is we're looking at the goaltending carousel. The other names are Binnington and Bobrovsky, who has played way too much hockey over the last few years. Is he going to make it through another playoff run? Is Binnington going to find his Team Canada play, or is he going to be playing like he's played with the Blues? Like, there's a lot of questions. Cooley could be right in there if he's on the market. I'm not saying he is, but that's something that they might have to consider if the right trade comes and they get the value in return. Just like I would say the same thing for the Leafs. If someone offers something unreal for Wall, you kind of have to consider it. I wouldn't maybe move Hildeby right now because I think he's their young guy that they want to prop up. But if something comes up, you gotta consider it at this point with where these teams are sitting. Very very similar to the Canucks, who are not any better, and they're going to move a few pieces. Like we had Pettersson, and who was the other guy we had on the big board? Oh, I'm blanking.
Evander Kane.
Thank you, Kane, who is all but gone.
Yep.
They've pretty much said they're moving him by the deadline, but I could also see a few more guys moving, and we'll see, right, for Vancouver.
Yep.
But you have to put everything on the table. You can't just say no. So,
totally.
From one Alberta team to the other, let's talk a team who might actually be buyers at the deadline, Kyle. And the Oilers are interesting. What is the problem? And I think I'm going to start with this one because I have a very, very strong opinion on this one. And I want to know if you can find a fix for it or if this is just, unfortunately, they're kind of DOA. It's not the goalies. As much as people want to pinpoint it on the goalies, it's not the goalies, in my opinion. I'm not saying Stuart Skinner and Tristan Jarry and Ingram and whoever else has played in net for games this year have been phenomenal. They haven't. Look at the stats. They're less than 900 save percentage as a team. I get it. I'm not saying the goalies have been great. But watching them play, they look lost defensively.
Yep.
The wingers don't get back. There's no help from the wingers. You get defense who are disconnected constantly. The defensemen are disconnected. And that's pretty much all lines. I mean, you have Bouchard, who is notoriously not good defensively. But he's leading all defensemen in the NHL in points. So you take the good with the bad a little bit with him. You got to find a balanced partner with him who can help him out defensively, but you kind of have to take that with him. Nurse has looked lost for most of this season, right? I think Wallman was playing sort of out of position as his D partner. And I think bringing in Murphy should help because that'll put Murphy with Nurse, and then Wallman will be on the third pair with one of the other two guys who are probably going to jump in and out with Stastny and Emberson, right?
Yep.
I still don't think that's enough. Like, I like Ekholm as a player, but I don't think him and Bouchard are a great pair. Nurse and Murphy, is that going to be better than Nurse and Wallman? Maybe a little bit defensively, but, like, they look lost. They almost look disinterested. Very similar to what the Leafs do on the defensive end. And this is a team that has two of the top, 5 players in the world right now in Draisaitl and McDavid. Depending on where you rank people, it might be just outside of top 5, but I would say 2 of the top 5 players in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And they've lost overall their last 11 games by a score of 51-50.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking, they're giving up so many goals. And yet they're scoring so many goals. Like, they are averaging 4.4 or 4.5 goals a game. 4. But they're giving up 4.6. Like, you can't. That is not sustainable. We've seen that with the Leafs. We've seen that with other teams over the years. That is not sustainable. And when it comes to the playoffs, if you're playing behind and you're chasing games like the Oilers do, they are the kings of the last 2 minutes. They've scored more goals in the last 2 minutes than anyone in the NHL this season. That's not sustainable in the playoffs. Everything gets tighter. Everything gets harder. The goal scoring will not be there all the time in the last 2 minutes like it has been in the regular season for these guys. Mm-hmm. So how do you fix effort on the defensive end? How do you find a way to clean it up and not force your goalies to try to make saves on cross-crease passes that not many goalies are going to save anyway? Again, I'm not saying the goalies aren't without fault. They haven't played great.
Yep.
But it's not on them when half the time they're picking the puck out of an open net because it went cross ice and they had no chance. Or they're 5 guys in front of the net and they can't even see the puck because everyone's so disorganized. Like, at some point, the forwards and the defense have to also look in the mirror and step up and change their game. And I just don't know if that's something that they can fix at the deadline or if that has to be in-house or if that's a coaching change. Like, what do you think, Kyle?
I think it's an off-season thing because I think you have a $9 million pile-on back there that is not helping the team and taking up all the cap space of players that could be brought in to help that, right? So to me, Darnell Nurse is a waste of a contract at this point based on the defensive play that I've seen, and honestly, I don't think he was worth the contract in general. So there's that. I think the only real thing you can do for, to prepare for playoffs and get ready to go on a potential run, 1, hope you will end up with LA Kings, but it's not looking like that. 2, I think you have to look, and I think a guy like, going back to Leafs, I think a guy like Bobby McMahon would help them a ton.
Yeah.
I think it would be a guy who, 1, can keep up with Connor McDavid, play on that top line. He's got the speed to keep up with McDavid because that's the issue right now is McDavid is skating laps past all these people he's playing with outside of Draisaitl, right? And it's not helping. So I think McMahon is a guy that could potentially keep up with him, keep going that way. And it's one of those, it's going to cost you a bit because I think McMahon's going to be again one of those guys on the market that's going to be one in demand.
Yeah.
But I think he's a guy who's sound defensively in his own end, can chip in with some goals, very much like a Hyman-esque player that they already have,
Yeah.
but gives them a second line of depth of that type of player, right? Probably kind of what they were hoping Connor Brown was eventually going to develop into when they signed him originally to that contract.
Yep.
But McMahon's a step above. So
Yeah,
I think that could help severely. And then I think they just need a big depth piece in the defense, a guy who's just known as being a defensive defenseman, right? And who that is, I don't know. Like, it's definitely not Dougie Hamilton or anybody on our list to start with. But again, go back
OEL, maybe.
I think OEL moves the puck pretty well, and like I wouldn't say he's the best defensively accordingly.
Fair.
So to me, it's weird to go back to it, but like they need like a Luke Shen style player that like if you stick him out there, he's going to shut him down defensively.
Yeah.
But he's not going to do anything special. You already have your puck movers and your big guys that can move the puck. So like, obviously keep going back to the Leafs and referring to their players. Like,
we're in Leafs territory, to be fair.
Yeah, just like a Jake McCabe style player.
Yeah.
Right. Like a guy at the Leafs, like Jake Muzzin, where they brought him in.
Yes.
Didn't do much offensively, but you could trust him to go out there every other shift, try to shut down one of their top two lines, and be a physical guy. And I think that's somebody they need. So I'd be very curious what moves they make, who truly gets identified as that type of guy. I don't know off the top of my head, if I'm being quite honest. But I think that's the type of move they need to make now and then shed salary in the offseason.
Yeah, that's fair. I actually think that's a really smart way to go about it. And again, it's a tough situation because you have two of the best players in the world, and you've been to the Stanley Cup final back-to-back years. They still got to do something because it's not good enough with the depth of the Western Conference right now at the top of the Central. Like, the Pacific is awful. We can agree to that. Even the Golden Knights are the first in the division, and they look horrendous lately. They can't get a win.
Speaking of goalies,
yeah, they'll need one. Who I'm interested to think who do you think ends up with Bob? Who do you think ends up with Binnington? And is there an off the board goalie you would say might get moved? This is off the script, by the way, folks. This was not a prepared conversation, but no.
And one of those, I think, one goalie to watch out for in being moved is Jesper Wallstedt.
Yeah, I would agree.
So I don't think that's a guy for a playoff team. I think that's going to be more of a team that wants to get a developed guy or a player to develop. So you look at something like that. As for a team, potentially maybe look at LA for that type of thing. Although I think they're kind of relying on Carter George and the Finnish guy to be their next goalies.
Fair.
In saying that, I think Bobrovsky, I'm going to go on a limb and say Montreal goes against Bobrovsky. I think that's kind of the big thing that they're missing right now is that dependable guy. They have two okay guys.
They have two guys that, when they're playing really well, are really good.
Yes.
But very rarely play really well.
Correct. And the big thing that helps for Montreal is it does not take away from Fowler in the long term.
Yeah.
Because Bobrovsky's 37. It's
38.
A win. 38. Sorry. He's a win now goalie, right? They go all in. As we said earlier, the East is wide open. So to me, I could see a team like Montreal being like, yeah, push the cards in. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go do it. So there's that. Binnington, I think it's going to be either Edmonton or Vegas, personally. I think there is a real chance that Edmonton doubles down on the goalie. I think they just want to get, one of each. They want to get a forward, a defenseman, and a goalie. And I think it's going to be like, that's where they set it. Might do a Leaf style thing where they just empty the draft pick cupboards and be like, all right, let's go.
I think the problem is I think you have to in Edmonton because McDavid's got 2 more years on his contract. There's no guarantee that he's still there after.
Yep.
Without McDavid, that team is not as good. So you have to go in and try to win now.
Correct.
So.
And then I think secondary market, you got Stolars or Walls, as we were saying. But outside of that, I don't think there's a whole lot of goalies potentially on the market.
Yeah.
So
It's a quiet goalie market this year. I do like the Wallstead shout, though. That could be a very interesting piece that might be moved. Again, maybe not to a contender or somebody who's looking for something win now, but that is a very interesting name to keep an eye on. All right, last topic here, Kyle, before we can head out. I want to talk about the... Oh, that's not the one that I wanted to talk about. Let's try... I guess we're still talking about the Flames. What is going on?
even though it says Blues.
I know. It says Blues. The logo's not changing. Let's see. Maybe I just need a period in here. Let's try this. Ready? There we go. I knew there was something. Listen. Naming conventions and team names always get you.
Gotcha.
The Blues are a very interesting team because they've been good for a while. They're not good anymore. And it's really odd that you see a team's first-line center who's young, under contract for, I think he's under contract for 6 years.
He's got 5 more after this year.
5 more. Okay. Yep. So 5 plus this year. Be on the trade market. Like, that is odd. Not to mention, let me correct this. Their number one centerman, their number one defenseman, and their number one goalie are all on the trade market. Right? Like, that's crazy.
And their number one winger. Their entire, essentially almost their first line. Yeah. Right? Because you got Kyrou, you got Thomas, you got Parayko, and Binnington. Those are their big 4. And then even on top of that, you have Justin Falk, who's going to be there as well.
Yeah, and he looks like he'll be moved.
Yeah, and then you potentially have some other secondary pieces. I don't know if, Buchnevich potentially. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. But like Buchnevich, Thomas, Kyrou, Falk are your top 4 point getters. And 3 of them are for sure on the market. 1 of them might be on the market. Shen, is he potentially a movable piece? Like to add that veteran presence on a third line? Mm-hmm. Like there's so much here that could be moving.
And in saying that, they have some really good young pieces too.
Yes.
So it's like, you look back at the Holloway Broberg thing, Edmonton is still kicking themselves for what happened.
Yeah.
Right. Like that whole situation was great. You look at Neighbors, he looks like he's going to be good. Snuggerud looks like he's going to be good as well.
Yep.
So they have the pieces, right? You hope that Hofer is going to be that guy. But again, I could see the Blues being one of those teams that, if Minnesota wants Robert Thomas, Wallstead's going back the other way.
Potentially. But right? You're moving Binnington anyway.
That's what I'm saying. But like to me, if you have a Wallstead-Hofer combo, I think you're looking great for the future. Yeah. You get some good picks back too for some of the other players. And I think it's going to be a short rebuild at that point for St. Louis.
It might take a year.
2 or 3 years. I would say 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. But it's interesting to see because they built up so well to win their cup. And that was 2019. Well, 2018, 2019 season.
Yes.
I only know because I was in Vancouver when it happened.
There you go.
So, math in my head.
Yeah.
For the last 7 years, they've kind of just been good. Like, nothing great. They haven't been world beaters in any way. But they've been good. And this is the first year they're kind of not good. And they're like, all right, we got to reset. Let's reset now. Let's get everybody where we need them to be. And we'll go from there. We will rebuild on the fly happily. Because we know we have a good prospect pool that is already in the NHL, to be fair. Not even really just prospects. And all we got to do is just rebuild. We got this. They're confident with that. The other interesting thing to look at it is they might actually be a little bit more behind the scenes. But Alex Steen is taking over as the GM next season or in the offseason.
In the offseason, yep.
Right? Is he maybe like talking to Doug Armstrong and being like, hey, let's get a reset, right? I know where we were. I was part of that team. I know what it was like. Can we reset and move everything and kind of restart with the young guys and I can build my team from there? Maybe he's like in Armstrong's ear saying that, and maybe they move that on. And I'm not gonna take credit for that thought. This actually came from Frankie Corrado on Overdrive today. Mm-hmm. That's an interesting thought because Steen's a smart dude. He knows how this works. He might not have been in the GM chair before, but he knows how a team building works. And if he's coming in and he brings in a bunch of young guys and they're a talented group, that could bode well for years to come. So that's an interesting
100%.
side thought about the Blues going into the deadline.
And honestly, it's refreshing to see a team be like, okay, we had our run. We tried to do it the next couple of years. Reset.
Yeah.
Not like again, going back to Leafs, like not one of those teams where, oh, we didn't get it done. We're going to try again next year. Oh, we're going to run back again. Run it back. Run it back. Like it's like at a certain point, St. Louis realized, okay, we're bad this year. Let's blow it up. Start fresh. We have some young guys that we think are going to be our future pieces, right? But they also realize, Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou, like those type of guys, they're 27, 28. They're on really good contracts right now. Like, $8 million for Robert Thomas being a number one center, maybe a number two on some of these playoff teams, right? That's a solid contract. You're not getting that anymore. So, like, it's an affordable piece, and they're going to maximize the value of what they're going to bring back.
Yeah.
So, I think it's great. And I think if the Parayko trade goes through, like you look at that, that's a huge step forward. You got a top 10 pick, plus a first round pick, right? That's a solid return. You can't ask for much more than that for your defenseman. And it's going to be, and that's why I say 2 to 3 years, because I think, depending on what they get at this offseason, depending on how the draft goes, there's a very real chance we're talking, I'm not talking them being a top team in 3 years.
No.
But we're talking to them potentially being a playoff team again in 3 years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you say that, but at the same time, their division is not great outside of the top three.
Yeah, totally.
So, like, Chicago, they're up and coming. They're figuring it out, but are they going to be there faster? Depends on what you get, right?
Yeah.
Winnipeg, I would like to say they'll figure it out because they have Hellebuck, right? And when you have good goaltending, that solves a lot of problems. But there's no guarantee that they're going to go in the
Hellebuck
right.
and not playoffs Hellebuck.
But there's no guarantee that they're going to go in the right direction, even with Hellebuck, right?
Nope, not at all.
Nashville's that weird in-between team right now. And Utah, yeah, they're up and coming, fine. But if you're competing with Utah, Nashville, Chicago, and Winnipeg for playoff spots over the next few years, I think you kind of have a shot. And then you add on the fact that 2 of those teams could get into the playoffs every year because the Pacific is so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're really talking. You know what I mean?
100%. I think the top 3 in that division are tough, right?
Yes, the top 3 are
Minnesota's always going to be a top team, right? They're always in that third spot, basically. And then Dallas and Colorado go back and forth for 1 and 2.
Yes,
right?
100%.
So it's tough there. But as you said, the Pacific ain't much to talk about. The Sharks are up and coming, so I'll give them credit for that. Like they look like they're going to be a good team in 1 or 2 years.
Yeah.
The Ducks are very similar. They seem like they're going to be a good team for 1 or 2 years.
They might win the division this year.
Yes, 100%, which is crazy. But like, it just shows some of those trades they made have kind of paid off too.
Finally.
Vegas, I think Vegas and Edmonton are coming into their they got 2, maybe 3 years left before.
Yeah,
you really got to reevaluate the team.
Their window's closing.
Like Vegas has a lot of mid to young players, right? Marner, Eichel, that kind of stuff, so that they will have a window, but they also have no cap space. That's the
no goaltending.
Thing. Correct, right? They have no cap and they have no goalie, so it's and they have no goalie prospects.
No,
so it's one of those. To me, that's going to be an interesting team to see where they end up going in a couple of years. So, but I mean, you look at the bottom. I think the Kings are on the way out.
Yep.
Flames are down there, and Vancouver is arguably the worst team in the NHL. So there's that.
Is it arguably? I'm pretty sure they're by far the worst team in the NHL right now. They're 10 points clear at the bottom of anybody else.
Okay, fair. There you go.
They are clearly the worst team in the NHL right now, and they have no prospects of getting better next year.
So you're saying they're going to bring him home?
Who? McKenna?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was like...
I was going to say the number one prospect who's from Vancouver?
Yeah, okay. I thought you were talking about a player in the league. I'm like...
No.
Who's from BC that's going home?
Gavin McKenna.
Yeah. I mean, it's also lottery balls, right? So They will by far have the best chance.
So you're saying he's coming to the Leafs? Is what you're saying? You're going to make that statement right now? Top 5.
No.
Gavin McKenna. Okay.
The Leafs are closer to a playoff spot than they are to the bottom 5.
I can guarantee you that's going to change real quick.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Because the Kings, I think, are going to jump up. Who are obviously them getting Panarin, and they're going to try and make a little run.
Or sorry,
they're not that far out of the playoffs. So.
Let me correct my statement. I'm going to clear up the statement. They're 1 point closer to the bottom 5 than they are to a playoff spot.
Fair.
They are 8 points clear of bottom 5. They are 9 points out of playoff spots.
Gotcha.
So I still don't think they fall to the bottom 5 because those bottom 5 teams are real bad. But
yeah, I mean, the team that you got to look at, like Chicago and Winnipeg, are kind of that team that's in that area, right? It's 4 and 6 points away. Or no, sorry,
6 and 8
now?
6 and 8.
Sorry, 6 and 8. Sorry,
I got you.
So like to me, that's just a bad losing streak, and
yeah, that's
Jets
fair.
and
That's fair.
Jets and Chicago pick up a couple wins here and there. And the other thing too is all they have to do is get into the top 5. They can end up 7th and jumping 2 spots. So there's that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. When it comes to getting their draft pick back, you got to be in the top 7 and hope, right?
Correct. You hope you're 5 and you hope you're 5 and you don't drop out. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. The perfect scenario is you're third last.
Yes.
Because you can't lose it and you can only go up.
Correct. But realistically, that ain't happening.
No, it's not happening. They're not going to fall that far. But that's the dream for Leafs fans right now. That's a sad dream. Anything else you want to add on the deadline before we head out, Kyle?
No, I hope it's good, but we'll see. I mean,
we'll see.
Trade deadlines have disappointed me before, so we'll see.
Yeah, and again, with the whole salary cap in the playoffs this year, I think this is going to be an interesting year just from that perspective. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. A couple shout-outs I want to say. Canadian women's national team playing the American women's national team right now in She Believes Cup. It is currently 1-0 U.S. just after halftime, but looks like the Canadians are actually putting up a good fight, which is great. Sad news coming out of college football today as former head coach of Notre Dame, Coach Lou Holtz, passed away. So sad day in college football. Everyone knew the coach. Anything else you want to add, Kyle, other than get excited for World Baseball Classic?
So the framework for the Uyghur deal.
Oh.
Sarah Valley just did it. 3 second-round picks, Oli Mata, and a prospect.
Whoa.
So
that's not bad for Calgary.
Mm-hmm. So apparently they're still awaiting final approval, but it's looking like that's what it's going to get done. So
yeah. Wow, that's a pretty good return for Calgary, all things considered.
Mm-hmm. So. I'm surprised they couldn't get a first, to be honest, but 3 seconds, you can't really say no.
No, you can't say too much about that. So, all right, folks, that'll do it for us this week. Make sure you tune in next week. We'll have a recap of the trade deadline, some basketball talk too as we approach playoff runs, and the Raptors are still chugging along in the mess that is the East. Still top 5, Kyle. Hopefully we'll get some playoff basketball here in the city. Lots to talk about.
Sorry, there was another trade too. Jason Dickinson to the Oilers for Andrew Mangiapane and a first-round pick. So,
wow. I guess the first-round pick is so that they take Mangi?
Take his contract, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, like, Dickinson's a decent piece, but
that's
a steep price.
That's a very big price, and Chicago gets another player nobody wants and another first-round pick from
first-round pick, baby,
at the end of the round. So
maybe.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just saw that on Twitter.
No, I love it. Keep bringing it in. I'm glad you're on the ball, which is good because I'm focused on producing the thing, and I keep not being able to look at the camera. So one of us has to be paying attention to trades.
I got you.
We'll try to bring you guys coverage, try to send out tweets as trades come out on trade deadline day. We do also have full-time jobs, so please be aware of that. And don't kill us if we're, busy.
Might be a big recap.
Yeah, big recap. I might jump on Friday night. We'll see. I'm not saying that right now. We'll play it by ear. We might do a weekend thing this weekend. We'll talk it out. But as always, follow us on socials at Garage Door Sports on Twitter, at Garage Door Sport on Instagram. I don't know why. Gotta love the character cap. Make sure you check out our YouTube and subscribe if you are listening on podcast. If you're listening on YouTube, don't forget to check out the podcast because you can always listen back to anything that you may have missed. If you want to follow us, it's at Nick McVicker and at Kyle Vardy. I mirror my camera. It's a real problem, all right? Don't get at me. That way. And we'll try to bring you more of the best sports talk that we possibly can. So, Kyle, until next time, always love chatting with you, man. See ya.